You know, every single day you make hundreds of choices, right? What to buy, where to work, even just how to spend your time. What if I told you there's a single field of study that tries to explain pretty much all of it? Well, today we're diving deep into the foundations of economics. Let's get right into it. It really all begins with a question that's so simple, a little kid could ask it, but it's also so profound that it's the basis for this entire field. So why can't we just have everything we want? So here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with the core economic problem. Then we'll look at the two main ways to view it. That's micro and macro. After that, we'll see how the very definition of economics has changed over time. And finally, we're going to tackle a big one. Is it a science or is it an art? Let's begin. All right, section 1, let's dig in. This right here, this is the absolute foundation. It's the single conflict that basically gives birth to every economic theory you've ever heard of. This slide just frames the basic human condition perfectly. On one side, you have our wants. They're endless, right? They're always changing, always growing. But on the other side, you've got our resources, our money, our time, the stuff we use to make things. And those are limited. This clash, this is the engine that drives all of economics. And this fundamental conflict, it has a name: scarcity. It's just the simple, unavoidable fact that there isn't enough stuff to satisfy everybody's every desire. And listen, this isn't just some boring vocabulary word. It is the absolute pivot point for the entire field of economics. Everything revolves around this one concept. And this right here, straight from the source text, shows you why. I mean, think about it. If scarcity didn't exist, we wouldn't even need what we call economic activity. It's because our wants are infinite but our means are finite that we're forced to make choices, to figure out how to allocate resources, and to trade with each other. And that, in a nutshell, is economics. So, okay, we've got this universal problem of scarcity, but how do we actually go about studying it? Well, it turns out there are two main lenses we can use to look at it: the micro view and the macro view. But first, here's a quick, cool little fact for you. The word economics actually comes from the Greek word oikonomos, which literally means household management. And that makes total sense when you think about it, doesn't it? At its very core, economics is just the study of how we manage our limited resources, whether that's in a single home or across the entire planet. And that brings us right back to our two lenses. You've got microeconomics, which zooms way in on the small-scale stuff. We're talking about you choosing which coffee to buy or a single company deciding its prices. Then you've got macroeconomics, which zooms way out to the big picture, things like inflation, unemployment rates, and the health of an entire country's economy. You know, I absolutely love this analogy because it makes the distinction crystal clear. Microeconomics is like getting up close and studying one individual tree. Macroeconomics is stepping all the way back to look at the health of the entire forest. And the thing is, you really need both of those perspectives to get the full picture. Okay, so we know what economics studies and the two main ways we look at it. But how do we actually arrive at our modern definition? It wasn't always this way. It's actually a really fascinating story of evolving ideas. The way we think about economics has been anything but static. I mean, look at this timeline. It shows this incredible progression. We start with Adam Smith, who is all about a nation's wealth. Then Alfred Marshall comes along and shifts the focus to human welfare. And finally, in the 20th century, Lionel Robbins brings it all together and zeroes in on the very concept we started with: scarcity. So let's start with the guy they call the father of economics, Adam Smith. For him, the whole point was pretty simple. I mean, the title of his most famous book wasn't The Wealth of Individuals, it was The Wealth of Nations. The entire field, for him, was about figuring out what makes some countries rich and others poor. Simple as that. But then Alfred Marshall came along and basically said, whoa, hold on a second. It's not just about how much gold a nation has in its treasury. Look at how he defined it: a study of mankind in the ordinary business of life. He completely shifted the focus from this abstract idea of national wealth to the real concrete well-being of actual people. That was a huge and incredibly important change. And that brings us to the modern era, and the definition that's most widely accepted today. Lionel Robbins kind of synthesized everything that came before. And his definition has three absolutely crucial parts: human behavior, scarce resources, and this is key, the fact that those resources have alternative uses. You could do this or you could do that. In short, economics is the science of choice. Now, did you notice that Robbins called it a science? But is it really?
That has been a long-standing debate, and it's exactly what we're going to explore in our final section. Is economics a science, or is it an art?
So let's frame the question really clearly. When economists are building these complex models, are they like physicists who are discovering these unchangeable laws of the universe? Or are they more like historians or critics trying to interpret complex human behavior that can, never be perfectly predicted? The case for economics being a science is actually pretty strong. I mean, it's a systematized body of knowledge. It's all based on observing and analyzing data. They even conduct experiments to test theories, even if there are, human limitations. It tries to establish cause and effect, and its ultimate goal is to create principles and laws. It sure sounds like a science. But, and this is a big but, unlike atoms or planets, the subject of economics is us, human beings. And we are notoriously unpredictable. We don't always act rationally, do we? So what's the final verdict? Well, ultimately, economics is both. It has the systematic approach of a science, but it absolutely requires the interpretation and nuanced application of an art to solve real-world problems. And that brings us completely full circle. From the biggest questions about national wealth, all the way down to the smallest decisions you make every single day. Economics isn't just some subject in a textbook. It's the study of you and me and the choices we make in a world of scarcity. So, knowing that, what choice are you going to make next?